thank you to Erica Wallace for allowing us to do this, for believing in this to grow, and hopefully more as the years go on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Warrior Weekly for the 2025-26 school year. I'm Brady Beedon, Kevin Brechmacher to my left, and as we have this final edition where it's just going to be one segment, no guest today, a season wrap-up of sorts, or a half-season wrap-up for ones we started this in the winter. And let's talk about what happened this past weekend before we get to the big picture. It was a disappointing end of the season. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I think if you ask everyone on men's tennis and everyone on baseball, they did not foresee this happening. Men's tennis drops a 4-1 decision to Northwood. Baseball goes 0-2 out in Illinois Springfield, and you can pick which one you want to start with. But not that they were overwhelming favorites to win, but you thought they had a puncher's chance, and neither really ever got off the ground.
Start with men's tennis because we'll get into more depth maybe with baseball and kind of wrapping up their season as well. But disappointing for the men's tennis team to lose 4-1 to Northwood. They were the 3 seed. Northwood was the 6 seed. So on paper, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, Wayne State should take care of business here, and then probably get a chance to take on Ferris State again. We've talked about that over the last few weeks of the podcast as well. A chance to avenge that GLIAC tournament championship loss, but it just wasn't there. And again, sometimes in sports, I mean, we'll talk about this with baseball. We'll talk about when we kind of wrap up some other sports too and the way their seasons ended, but sometimes you just don't have it. And it was one of those days where the men's tennis team obviously didn't play their best. If they did, they would have won. And it's nothing against the student athletes. They had a heck of a year. Nothing against Coach Morrow. He had a heck of a year. But some days you just don't have it. And unfortunately, one of the times you didn't have it is in a do-or-die type situation where if you win, you move on. Mm-hmm. You lose, you go home. And it just wasn't there for Wayne State. So an excellent season from the men's tennis team. But as we'll kind of talk about, it's going to be a theme, Brady. You left you wanting more.
Yeah,
right? You just wanted some more. Yearning for more. You wanted that one more match to take on Ferris State again and see what happened. And just wasn't there. But again, as we'll say as we wrap up a lot of these sports this school year, great season nonetheless.
No, there were a lot. Both things can be true, that a lot of teams throughout this school year had very good seasons, but they didn't hit their ceiling.
Yeah.
Both can be true to where, hey, you accomplished a lot and you can be proud of a lot. There was still a little more that there's left to accomplish, and that's a positive, because you can spin that into a positive because that means there's still room for growth. Baseball, I think, falls under that. Man, they had a good year, but the last 2 to 3 weeks just left a lot to be desired. It was a bad time to go into a slump. They go out. The first game against Illinois Springfield, they're up 4-1 in the first inning after giving up, again, another first inning run. And you go, okay, they answered back some walks. You got a little bit of luck with the pitcher that was wild. And you're up 4-1, and then the bats go cold, and then a ninth inning where Umsel, Missouri St. Louis explodes in the ninth, and it felt like that was the knockout blow. Yes, they had another game against UIndy, but it felt like mentally that was the final straw.
I got home from work Thursday, turned it on. The first inning had already happened. Wayne State was already up 4-1 when I turned the game on the NCAA stream, and it just felt like, Brady, in that game, that Wayne State was probably the better team, but they just couldn't get the bats going after that first inning, and really didn't get the bats going in the first inning either. They were aided by a lot of walks and hit by pitches to help them score runs. But in baseball, it doesn't matter whether you score runs via the hit, score runs via the walk, via the hit by pitch. You scored runs, right? But they didn't extend the lead. And when you're playing a good team like Umsel, coming off a GLVC tournament championship the week before and had some confidence heading into the tournament play last week, you need to extend that lead, because solo homer here makes it 4-2, solo homer there makes it 4-3. They tie it up, kind of manufacturing, scratching across the run, 4-4 late, and you go into the ninth inning and you're I didn't want to say I kind of felt it coming.
They were on their heels.
But they were on their heels. They were fighting them off. Umsel had base runners almost every inning late, and we kept getting out of jam after jam after jam. And then the ninth inning, it just all imploded again. But the inning started by a hit by pitch. And they always say, what is the death knell of a bullpen, whether you're talking about high school baseball, you're talking about college baseball, you're talking about professional baseball, is the leadoff walks, or in this case, a leadoff hit by pitch, because that just set the tone for the entire inning. And a lot of the small things that Wayne State didn't do well the last couple weeks kind of manufactured themselves in that ninth inning. Didn't field a bunt properly. You made a throwing error on a bunt. Just booted a ball in the infield. And then especially on Friday in that loss, 10-0 to U Indy, kind of the same thing. Just, kind of kicking the ball around the infield a little bit, not playing, clean baseball. Obviously got shut out, so you didn't get the bats going at all. But let me ask you this, Brady. Let's have a discussion about this. And we can agree to disagree on some of this and agree or disagree together, but I think what kind of hurt Wayne State baseball, maybe their apex this season, was that split with Grand Valley at home.
They played some good baseball
because they played great baseball that weekend, take away the first half of the first game of the series. But after that, I thought they played great baseball. Obviously, Grand Valley is one of the best teams in the country. With their pitching staff, they might have a chance to win it all. I'm not going to predict that here, but they'll take on U Indy this weekend over in Allendale.
That'll be
2 out of 3
2 games.
Yeah, 2 games. I mean, Colin Bradley going game 1. Best pitcher in the country by far this year. But that was kind of the peak of Wayne State right there. They go 2-2. That was a great result. I mean, that was the only team in the entire GLIAC that won 2 games from Grand Valley this year in a series. But then after that, the schedule got a lot easier. It was almost a month of baseball before that Rollins series. And again, you're in sunny Florida. You're away from the cold weather, that we've had in the end of April in Detroit. So maybe you're not taking that series as seriously as maybe you should have against a good team. You win 1 game but lose 2 in kind of dominating fashion. Rollins kind of took it to you in 2 games. But do you think that Wayne State baseball got hurt because their whole tough part of their schedule was front loaded? They kind of peaked Easter weekend, that first weekend in April, and they had a whole month. And no offense to Saginaw Valley, no offense to Parkside, who beat us in the GLIAC tournament, Purdue Northwest, and Roseville, who they played later on in the league season in April. But the competition just wasn't there. And sometimes you kind of hit your peak. You're playing these great teams. You just came off a series with Davenport. Parkside ended up being okay. You played them too. You split with Grand Valley. I'm not saying that you didn't take those teams seriously and you kind of got away from having to play perfect baseball to win. But you could get away with some errors, away with some games where you didn't hit the best because you're playing teams who weren't very good. Do you think that hurt Wayne State?
Maybe a little, but they had 3 weeks of good competition to ramp back up. If it was just the Rollins series, if it bled a little bit into the GLIAC tournament, okay. But it was 3 weeks of it because you had Rollins into the GLIAC tournament.
Yeah, but you played Parkside, Parkside twice.
They didn't even play those teams well.
That's what I'm saying. You just never got to play.
There was never. Yeah. Again, if it was maybe just the Parkside game and they ended up playing well the rest of the way, but they hadn't played good baseball really since the start of the Purdue Northwest series, the last GLIAC series they had. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it was a prolonged slump for them, and everyone kind of went cold at the same time. There was not one thing with baseball you can go, the pitching just imploded or the bats went cold. Now everyone kind of gets a slice of the pie when you look at what caused it at the end. And again, that, like you said, that happens sometimes where everyone goes cold at the same time in basketball. Everyone can't hit a shot on the same night. Yeah. It happens, and I don't know what it was, but it was a bad time to have a bad time. It really was a prolonged funk, and it was almost that it became mental after that first or second game in the GLIAC tournament. Like I said, they were on their heels, and it felt like anytime something good happened, it was survival. It was, all right, we got out of that. Or okay, thank God, we were able to score a couple runs, not on the attack and not pushing forward where it was avoiding disaster. Even the win against Parkside, which we talked about, ended on what probably should have been a double play, but was an error.
Or the win against Purdue Northwest, the game before, they scored 7 unearned runs, and the one inning they scored all the runs because of an error. I mean,
and then the start of the UMSL game, walks and hit back. It wasn't Wayne. It felt like Wayne State letting another team mess up rather than forcing the issue. And they were so strong. And the good news is a lot of these guys have eligibility left, right? Hopefully a lot of these guys are back. So this is a learning experience to grow off of. And I think Wayne State is going to be a team that is going to have a lot of expectations next year. But As much as I love this team and I loved watching them, and man, when they were playing good, they could play with anyone.
Good.
They didn't rise to the expectations, and that's where the old cliche, pressure is a privilege. Hey, you set the expectations high. Ryan Kelly, over 18 years, has set the bar for this program at a very high mark, and when you come up short, it leaves you wanting more. And I think that's kind of where I'm at is this team showed how good they can be. The talent in the lineup, the talent in the pitching staff has said, okay, the ceiling is really high for this team, and to not reach it and to not even get close to it, in my opinion, is what leaves you disappointed.
Yeah, no, I agree with most of your points you made there, Brady, especially with RK establishing this program. This is a program right now that expects to be in the NCAA tournament every year. And if they're not, it's kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, that's kind of the baseline, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of the baseline. And you know, what a great season it was. Again, I think it peaked maybe that Sunday, it was Saturday because it was Easter weekend, that Saturday against Grand Valley when they split the series 2-2. And you kind of felt like, you know, anything was possible for this baseball team. And then just after that, they won 3 or 4 in Saginaw the next weekend. And then obviously won all 4 games at Roosevelt, who was not a very good team. Won 3 or 4, lost that senior day game against Purdue Northwest. But you just never thought they played maybe their top baseball the rest of the season. There was almost a month there where they just, you know, either were playing bad teams and just had more talent so they beat them, or, you know, against decent teams, and then the tournament last weekend just didn't have enough offense or didn't make enough plays in the field to beat those good teams. And again, you get into a tournament situation that, we discussed last week, and I kind of, you know, went viral maybe on the Wayne State social media page about my rants about the tournament selection last week, and I'm still upset about that, by the way. But you know, when you get to a tournament, whether you deserve to be there or not, all those teams are good. You're not playing. No offense, again, no offense to the people at Roosevelt or Purdue Northwest. You're not playing Roosevelt or Purdue Northwest in the NCAA tournament. You're playing good teams. So, yeah, it left you wanting more, though. Again, it's going to be a theme today. I think Brady. You know, we kind of thought earlier in the year, man, this is a team that could maybe get to the College World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they were playing early in the season, went through that Florida swing undefeated the first time, and, you know, won 3 or 4 against Findlay, who was a great team, and then split with Grand Valley, split with Davenport, who both those teams were NCAA tournament teams. And you're like, okay, you know, this is a team that is going to do a lot of damage, just didn't have it, and unfortunately peaked too soon maybe, and just didn't have their best baseball late in the game.
Oh, and it goes back to spring sports are such a sprint that you don't have time for a lull.
Yeah, you don't,
When you have a lull, you know, if it's a major league season, okay, you had a bad June, all right, bounce back, and you have 90 games left.
Yeah.
In college baseball, you really don't. And it was, again, a bad time to have a bad time, and unfortunately their season comes to an end what we feel a bit prematurely, but they weren't up to snuff, and they did not play the baseball that we had become accustomed to. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate, I still think that was a very strong season for them.
Absolutely.
I am sure that there will be people in that facility that say when you don't get a banner up in any way, shape, or form, it's not what you're hoping for, but it's still another strong season, another tournament appearance. But I think next year we'll have, again, very high expectations for this team and hoping for more than what we got this year. And again, it goes back to it's a testament to what the standard has been set at for that baseball program.
We have some, and trust me, I've been around here a long time now. We have some great coaches here at Wayne State. Ryan Kelly is one of them. I love working with Ryan Kelly. I love the way he coaches this baseball team. I love his overall life philosophy. I love talking to RK, and he's gonna have him bounce back next year. And again, that being said, they had a great season. This is one of the best seasons in school history this year. Unfortunately, you know, they just didn't get it done at tournament time, whether it was in the conference tournament 2 weeks ago or last week in the NCAA tournament. But maybe they'll use that as the fuel, back to that chip on your shoulder that I talked about last week. Kind of have a chip all off season.
Going to have to hold it for a long time.
Have to hold it till February. But hey, the way, and you'll learn this, Brady, Maggie, well, back behind the camera too. The older you get, the quicker time goes, unfortunately. So it'll be February again before we know it. It'll be time for baseball again before we know it. And I guarantee Wayne State will be back and better than ever next year.
So as we mentioned, it's going to be kind of a year wrap-up. And the same feeling we had for baseball, I think, is the same feeling we had for a lot of other sports. Because I think we have some programs, some like baseball and men's golf, that have established themselves and have always been solid.
Men's tennis.
And men's tennis as well, yes, that, had really good years, but there's more meat on the bone. And there's some others that are starting to elevate into that category. Let's go back to the fall with volleyball. I think that's another one where, they had a heck of a season, GLIAC tournament champs, so they do get a trophy, but you were hoping for a run in that postseason, and an unbelievable opening round. All 5 sets in that first round were decided by 2 points.
Yeah.
So it's not that they played poorly, but now volleyball is getting to the point, and Tim Coe talked about it, where every team's a new team, but to the point where now, okay, this volleyball program is starting to cook with gasoline here. That coming back, it's, hey, you had a great year. Now let's see how you follow it up.
I was thinking coming into today, because I know we were doing a wrap-up show, excuse me. What was the Wayne State sports moment of the season? And I'll let you think about that for a minute, but
I had two come to mind right away.
One of them that came to mind for me right away, and I'll talk about it right now because we're talking about volleyball, was the volleyball team winning the GLIAC tournament championship on the road at Ferris State. Now, to me,
that's probably it.
To me, there's nothing better than winning any game at Grand Valley or at Ferris State, let alone a conference tournament championship game at Ferris State in their gym.
Sorry, there is one better.
What do you got?
Winning a national title for Max Wozniak.
Okay, that would be another one. That would be another one.
That is the number one.
That would be number one.
That's a natty.
So we'll go 2 with the volleyball.
As it for a team moment?
Team moment, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Then I would say that.
But what a moment that was to go on the road and play so well in that match. And again, you had the tailwinds behind you. It was like you were flying west to east, and the jet stream's pushing you toward the East Coast there, and you thought Wayne State was going to go into it seemed like UMSL has been a theme here this year at Wayne State, but they had to go play in St. Louis. And our boy Cooper had a good time taking the bus all the way to St. Louis, back to one of his favorite cities in the country. He's a big Cardinals fan, by the way. But I watched that entire match, and what a match it was against Finley in that first-round NCAA tournament game, back and forth. You thought Wayne State had it. They were up big in the 5th set, then Finley comes back and ends up edging them out by 2. But of course, Ferris State's the one that won that regional and went to the Elite Eight. But that's the thing that leaves you wanting more. Because you're like, all right, if you win that match against Finley, you already beat Ferris State the 2 weeks before in the GLIAC tournament championship on their home court. You would have been playing them on a neutral court.
You can do it.
You know you can do it. Again, a chance to maybe go farther. It just wasn't in the cards, and man, just more meat on the bone, as you like to say, Brady. It was right there, but that was one of the moments of the year.
What this illustrates is every time you take another step up the ladder, every time you get a little closer to that ultimate goal, each rung is harder to climb.
Yeah.
I'm not saying any of these are easy, but getting a team from the doldrums, being a team that's a bottom feeder in the league, getting them to winning, 30 to 40% of the games is not as hard as getting that team to now being above 500 and getting an above 500 team to a conference championship contender, and then getting the championship contender to a champion, and then a national champion contender. And every step gets harder. And I think that's what this year illustrated as a whole. A lot of programs took a step. Women's basketball took another step this year. We kind of talked about it before we were recording, about how last year, we were all hoping they would beat Grand Valley, but I don't think there were a lot of expectations of, hey, they can go do it. It was, any given day, the cliches, if something happens. But we weren't really expecting it. This year in women's basketball, when they went over to Grand Valley, there was hope and expectations that they were going to go compete and knock off the defending national champions, because they had already beaten them this year. And in 2 games, the score differential was 0. It was a 1-point win and a 1-point loss. So going over there for the rubber match, Wayne State was kind of the biggest hurdle for Grand Valley in that national championship run. And no, that's not a moral victory. And part of that is also just the way it's set up, where you could argue Wayne State was probably pretty comfortably a top 10 team in the country. They just had to play the number 1 team in the country early in the postseason. But going over there and saying, we're playing a team we've already beat this year, and to lose to, again, the eventual national champion, no shame in that, but to lose that one left you going, man, they could have done it because they already did it once before, and they already should have did it in their gym once before.
Yeah, perfect segue, Brady, because when I was thinking last night about the top moments of Wayne State team-wise for the year, the volleyball win at Ferris State for the conference championship was one of them. The other one was the home win over Grand Valley.
Yeah.
I know you missed it that day, Brady, unfortunately.
Well, and to pair it with both teams winning that day.
Yeah, both teams winning that day, but especially the women knocking off the number one team in the country for the first time in school history. But yeah, it would have been maybe a bigger moment if they would have won the game over there in the regular season. But again, we won't discuss that. It's been, 5 months since that happened now, so I think I'm kind of over that to this point. But yeah, again, top 10 team for sure. We were talking off the air before we started taping today that if Wayne State is probably in 6 of the other 8 regions in the entire country, they're probably going to win that region and get to the Elite 8. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks they ran into Grand Valley. 2 years ago, let's be honest, I was excited for the game, but the chances of beating Grand Valley 2 years ago just wasn't really there, and it showed on the court. Now, this year was completely different. I kind of gave them going in maybe a 40-60 chance of winning the game just because of what I saw earlier in the season. Probably should have beat them over there in the regular season. Did beat them here at Wayne State by 1. And again, that 0-point differential between the 2 games. And Wayne State led early in the second quarter. And you could tell Grand Valley was nervous. Their coaches were nervous. Their fans were nervous. But then Grand Valley just showed their championship medal the last maybe 25 minutes of that game and kind of pulled away to win. But I'll go back to saying this, Brady. I mentioned on the podcast the next week after that game that Grand Valley celebrated beating Wayne State that night like they had won the national title. Okay, because they were very excited. They know they had lost them earlier in the season. Their fans were very excited. I watched the replay because I was doing a softball game. I think at the time when Grand Valley was playing in their national title game back in March. I watched the replay of it just because I wanted to see how the game went. And the celebration after winning the national title, now they ended up winning by around 20 points.
They dropped the confetti early.
They dropped the confetti early. To me, they celebrated harder by beating Wayne State in the second round than they did when they won the national title. So that, again, kind of makes my point that they knew maybe their biggest hurdle to winning a national title was Wayne State, and they celebrated accordingly. So shout out to Carrie Lohr. What a great job her and Coach Ayerald have done the last couple of years with this team. One of the best programs now in the country. They have some really good players coming in. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about them yet because I don't want to get in trouble with Jeff Weiss, so I won't mention anybody by name, but they have a couple players coming in, freshmen next year, that are really, really good, that can maybe reload from a lot of the talent they're going to lose. We were talking about, the talent Wayne State's going to lose with Taylor Thompson and Gabby Lutchka. And
success breeds success.
Success breeds success.
Here's the thing.
Now you want to come to Wayne State and play
because here's the thing about being the top program and why it gets tougher. How many times in other sports have you gone, well, this team's losing these players, and then bang, like that, they have the replacement. And because again, this year, we love Shea Tripp. We weren't worried about who was going to replace Shea Tripp by December.
No.
So, and again, excellent player, an all-timer at Wayne State. But you replaced her and you figured out how to move forward. And that's what great teams and great programs do is you lose an all-time great or you lose an all-conference player and you say, thank you so much. But by the time graduation happens, you go, okay, next up.
Well, it's interesting because a couple years ago, Wayne State needed to replace their point guard. We had no idea who was going to be the point guard for the Wayne State women's basketball team. Then Alyssa Leister steps in and does a great job. She had never played point guard before. She talked about a lot through that senior season that she had. She goes out there, they make the NCAA tournament, get to the second round, lose to Grand Valley. She graduates. You're like, who is going to play point guard for this Wayne State women's basketball team? Well, step in J.C. Tubergen, who had an excellent year at point guard for Wayne State, got it really going late, had played some of her best basketball in the GLIAC tournament, in the NCAA tournament. Now she graduates.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried anymore because I know this program is going to produce somebody else to play point guard. There's a couple candidates off the top of my head that we could talk about. We won't have to do that today, but I'm not worried about that anymore. I was worried about it 2 years ago. I was kind of worried about it last year. But after what I've seen the last 2 years by this coaching staff being able to plug somebody else in there and somebody willing to sacrifice some of their other game to play point guard and do what they have to do to be a great team leader, somebody's going to step up and play. So I'm not worried about that. I'm expecting Wayne State's women's team to reload. I already know about some of these players coming in we can't talk about, but they're going to reload and they're going to be fine.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely other programs where we get like that, like we mentioned the other ones, golf, basketball, basketball, swim and dive, where you lose someone and you go, oh no, what are they going to do? Tennis. Yeah. You lose a great senior class, and it's okay, but we know there's talent coming back up. But no, a lot of exciting things this past year. We did have one new coach join the fray, and Coach Terrence Isaac, getting ready for football season, and he's had a lot of work to do, but again, it's still very early to pass any judgment, positive or negative. I will say the spring game was run well, and there was a lot of alumni there, and that was about all you could take out of any spring game, or anyone trying to figure anything else out more than that it's a fool's errand. But that's going to be something new and exciting coming this fall, is to see what a Coach Isaac football team looks like, because that's a program that we're hoping to get back on its feet, that does have a rich history here, especially over the last 20 years, to get back to where we know it can be.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Coach Isaac from what I've seen so far with him. Very personable guy. You can tell he wants to be here at Wayne State. Which is definitely something you need from your head coach, and I can't wait. I can't wait for that first Thursday night against Northwood to happen, and to see what this team can produce. And again, you might not see the results early from Wayne State. There are a lot of holes to fill, a lot of reloading that needs to happen. But I have a feeling this team's going to compete. They're going to be well coached, and we'll see what happens if they have the athletes to compete with some of the big boys. That remains to be seen. But I don't expect another 0-for season this year. I expect some wins, and we'll see what happens from Wayne State. But I can't wait. And we talked about it. Well, time goes quicker when you get older. It'll be February before we know it. Well, it's going to be the first week of September.
Well, it's funny you bring that up.
Summer always goes quick.
Even before then, keep an eye out. The next thing you'll kind of see from the Warrior Sports Network, position previews, get to meet the new staff, and a long series that we're going to start filming probably in the next month or so, as even the coaches are getting acclimated to their players, because that's one side that you don't think about when a new staff comes in, figuring out exactly what everyone has and what everyone can bring. So I'm excited to talk to the new staff. That will be coming out over the summer, so that will be kind of the next dripping of news, I guess, or of content from here. We'll be talking to everyone, getting ready for football season. And also, we've gone a long time without mentioning there's a new program coming in with women's soccer, because that's coming in the fall as well. So another sport to pair with a volleyball program that is, trying to follow up its best season, a football program that has a new leader, and now a brand new program in women's soccer.
I can't wait for women's soccer. I'm going to be broadcasting a lot of those matches on the Warrior Sports Network. Their first home match is that first week of September. Their first actual match in program history is the last weekend in August. I can't wait. Again, I don't think they're going to be measured on wins and losses. Not saying they're not going to win a lot of matches, but it's more, hey, you're building this program up. It's a chance for the fans out there to watch a program be built. I think the coaching staff is the right coaching staff to be in place. I've been impressed with them so far. Some of the recruits they're bringing in, some of the transfers they brought in. Again, I don't know, since the school year's, it's not fall semester yet. We're allowed to talk about them for sure, but I can't wait for it. It should be a lot of fun. And yes, so a little hiatus here for the first part of the summer, but you mentioned position previews, and hey, we've got competition that last weekend in August. The volleyball team is hosting their Warrior Invitational. Usually that's the first or second week of September. This year, last weekend in August, I know Cooper's getting excited about that, getting the staff ready for that, and then that big extravagant volley in the D, they call it. Can't wait. So again, it'll be here before we know it. We'll take off some time for the summer. But yeah, new program in women's soccer, new head coach in football, and the volleyball team trying to continue to kick it up cross country, coming off a pretty decent season last year as well. So the fall will be here before we know it, and can't wait. And it was a great season overall here at Wayne State. I really enjoyed the launch of the Warrior Sports Network.
Yeah,
Brady, you did such a great job getting that all together, and this podcast, great job as well. But we're able to do a lot more stuff now, which we're very excited about.
No, and we're hoping that next year we can grow on this. That this was a year where it was a lot of figuring out what we can and what we want to do, and laying the foundation and growing on it. And I think this show coming out the second half of the year, shout out Maggie, our producer all year long, who was able to come in and deal with us every day we record, every week, getting this ready. I think this is somewhere to grow. Again, we haven't talked specifics, but I know we want to grow. Thank you to Erica Wallace for allowing us to do this, for believing in this to grow. And hopefully more as the years go on, and starting to build more and more of this so we can make Wayne State athletics more accessible, that there's more people talking about what the green and gold are doing. So, no, I'm excited for next year to add to this and find ways to keep this growing and grow the brand of Wayne State athletics.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. You have to kind of modernize yourself into the mid-2020s here as we move on almost to the 2030s. That'll be here before we know it as well, and kind of revolutionizing things a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed all the work this year on the Warrior Sports Network, and got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of fans too, and that's what I love to see. Even on the road, like, it was interesting when I travel with basketball on the road, talking to other SIDs, other schools about what we're doing now compared to what we used to do, and made them think a little bit, maybe this is something we want to start doing too. So it was really fun, and I loved working. But first of all, one thing I want to say is a shout out to all the coaches here at Wayne State for being accessible and being very great to work with, and that goes from
I think
top
in
down.
some way, shape, or form, everyone was either on this or on a basketball halftime interview.
Yeah, everybody.
I think every single coach.
Yeah, every coach. I know every coach for sure was on a basketball interview. I think you had most of them on the podcast as well. But specific shout outs to head coach Brian Smothers, his staff, head coach Carrie Lauren, her staff, because my main sport here is basketball. I travel around with them all across the Great Lakes region in the best part of the year to do it, right in the middle of winter when the weather's out of control. We had some interesting road trips this year, especially up to Michigan Tech and northern Michigan when the wind chills were in the minus 40 range, and all the snow, our buses would stall, and we got stuck in a parking lot in Gaylord, Michigan for a couple hours as well. But shout out to both the basketball head coaches for sure for their support and their help throughout the season. Always be willing to tape pregame interviews and come on the podcast as well. They're just a pleasure to work with, both of them. I love both of them, and shout out to RK and the Cold Times and softball and baseball too for their support as well.
Yeah, I know it's not always in a coach's plan to sit down and talk with us, especially before a game or in the middle of a week, but we appreciate it, and I think it adds a lot. So, and I'm going to pre-thank Coach Isaac for letting me bug him during the week every week in the fall, because I'm going to be talking to him a lot as well. So
it's people that aren't embedded with teams like we are throughout the season don't maybe understand everything the coaches have to do, especially at D2. All right.
Yeah.
I'll mention basketball specifically because again, that's my main forte here at Wayne State. But not only do they have to coach the team on game day, they got to put tape together.
Yeah.
They got to put scouting reports together. They have to put travel itineraries together. They have to come up with places to eat. They have to come up with places to stay. And then when buses break down or buses get stuck for 2 or 3 hours, they have to call the bus companies and tell them, hey, our bus got stuck. You might want to send a different bus out to get us, or maybe a tow truck out to get the bus out. So for them to take their time, which they do graciously, and I don't get hardly any pushback from either the coaching staffs ever when I ask them to do something. They always are like, okay, we'll try to come up with the time to do it. And then they always take their time with me. They never rush through things. They always do a great professional job. But these coaches, I'll tell you what, again, they're not just coaches. They're also travel agents and coordinators and stuff they have to do on the road. People don't understand if you're not around coach, especially at the D2 level, because you don't have 30 guys on your staff for men's basketball. You have that do all that stuff for you. You have to do it yourself, and it's just a great. The seasons were good. The men's basketball team around 500. I know they want to be better, but hopefully they'll bounce back next year. The women's team getting to the second round again of the NCAA tournament, just spectacular. So great seasons from both, but stuff they did behind the scenes this year, outstanding as well.
Yeah. So with all that, if there's anything else you want to add, but we'll get ready to head to the summer. I know we'll get back in the lab, find ways to improve this and improve what the Warrior Sports Network was going into next year. But like you said, fall will be around before you know it. Look out for those position previews for football. That'll be coming up. I know we'll probably have some volleyball and soccer content coming as the season gets closer. But if nothing else, everyone enjoy their summer. And, yeah, like you said, football, volleyball, soccer, all the fall sports will be here right before you know it.
They're coming. And, again, have a great summer, everybody out there. Enjoy it. Enjoy the weather. And go Warriors. Always remember that. Go Warriors.
Well, thank you so much for listening for this first year. Again, hopefully next season will be even better, both in here and a few more trophies. We had some, always want more. But thank you so much for listening. For Kevin Brechmacher, I've been Brady Beedon for Warrior Weekly. Have a great summer, everyone.